springs were still back.
I haven't done anything. I barely drove it, you know.
I think that makes both of us.
I just stand back and watch.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? Garrett here with Deranged. Dave's with us. We got a bunch of people here. We've got Chuck here with his KRX. We've got Kent here with his KRX. And we are going to do a shock therapy review. So what we've done is we wanted to get a couple other stock KRXs to come on for a ride. And I have made the decision I am going to let them drive my machine a little bit as we go through the trails and a couple different settings, and get them to experience what they think about the shock therapy setup. So at the end, we can kind of all talk about it, do the review, and hopefully you guys can make a decision if it's the upgrade for you. So the first thing that I did want to show you guys was if Dave can capture the stance of my KRX versus the two stock ones. There is a huge difference, and I didn't know how big a difference it would be until we got the stock ones here. But I think it's the first thing that Chuck and Kent both noticed right off the bat was the difference in ground clearance and the way that the machine sits. So I dialed it in to sit about 16.5, hoping that when it settles it will be at about 16, 15 3/4. So shock therapy recommends 16. So anyway, so that's the plan. So we're going to jump in the KRXs, we're going to go for a ride. And we're going to mess with a couple different settings as well. So we're going to run all the KRXs in the clicker 3 position, and then we'll run a 12 position on all 4. So that way we can kind of just experience the way that the machines handle in those different settings. So Dave is also here. He's in the XRC. And who else do we have? Hey, what's your name again? Charlie. Charlie. So Charlie's actually brought out his razor as well, and he just put shock therapy springs on, right?
That's correct.
So, all right, so he's going to be out with that. And then, as you guys know, Dave's got his Smitty built, right?
Smitty Racing.
Smitty Racing, all set up there on his XRC, and he's still loving that. So, all right, you guys ready to go out and ride?
Do it.
Do it.
All right. All right, so we're at our first spot. So now we're gonna hit this trail. It goes that way, it goes over to the left. We're gonna go all the way down before we turn around and then make adjustments and switch machines again. So right now we're gonna go ahead and switch machines. We're gonna be on clickers 3 still on all the machines. So Chuck, if you wanna jump in mine to start, and then Kent on the way back from that same trail. And we're gonna kind of ride the same trail for now, just so you're experiencing the same thing, so you can kind of get a feel for what you're feeling and how that all works. How was your guys' settings on 3 on your stock machine?
Soft.
Very soft, very soft.
And that's the big thing that I think you'll find with shock therapy. It allows you to have way soft settings and still get over stuff really well, and then you can increase it when you need it, you know? That way you're getting more adjustment through the mountains and all that kind of area. So, okay, so we'll go ahead and switch machines and we'll start running these trails. and then we'll see how it all shakes out. All right, we just got done running a trail. The clickers were at 3, and we just got done with Kent and Chuck driving mine. So Kent, what do you think? First off, what are some of the differences you've noticed from your stock and mine?
The movie moment. Oh, okay.
I know, you ruined my whole my
Kent, you're
moment.
up. Go ahead.
So the one thing I really noticed between my stock setup and the shock therapy was that noise in that front end. You just hear that front end slapping and slamming every rock and everything every time you're hitting it. And with the shock therapy, there's just not a lot of, I mean, you'll hear a little noise once in a while, but just not much. It was nice. It felt really solid and tight.
So what's the difference that you feel from the settings 3 on yours and the settings 3 on mine as far as the way those ride?
You know, it just kind of floats over everything a lot better.
So like small chop stuff and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of rode over it really nice. You know.
How about swaying? Do you feel like the vehicle is swaying more on mine or yours, or do you feel like it's still pretty stable at 3?
Mine tends to kind of roll in and out of the curves a little bit more than yours. Yours kind of held them kind of tight. Nice setup. I mean, it's, you know.
Okay, so there's Kent's. We got Chuck. So what do you think, Chuck?
You know, obviously everybody knows if you own a KRX, you know what the suspension's like. You put it on 3, it's very soft. It's very plush. The one thing I definitely noticed on Garrett's machine versus my machine was over that small chop. When you get that little stutter bump going on, you really felt that it really took that and made it smooth. You didn't feel that really big stutter bump. Over the real big whoops, you know, you could definitely feel the suspension working. The only thing I can tell you is that on Garrett's, when you would go over the really big whoops, you could really feel that full extension. It was just something that was different, but you didn't hear the clattering of our crossover rings that, you know, on the stock machines constantly bang, bang, bang. That goes away. But yeah, the stutter bumps is a big difference. And then as far as the sway on that, you know, Garrett's is much more plush, I felt, you know, and it had much more, you know, it's a different feel totally because you are sitting so much higher. There's a good mix.
So, the biggest thing that I noticed the difference when I first put them on was adjusting to only 3 clicks in for softness. Especially if you're running hard and you start running harder on the whoops and stuff, you start bottoming out and you get a lot more up and down. Where 3 clicks on the new shock therapy system, I think, is a completely different ballgame. It's like way different, just the whole feel of it. And it might come from the ground clearance that you guys have seen, you know, the difference in sitting up a little bit higher and whatnot. But I can tell that the springs themselves on shock therapy are just way different, and the clicks are just like three clicks in, honestly. I might be able to almost do anything I want as far as mountain trails to out here if I want to just keep it nice and plush, you know.
Oh, I bet you could. I mean, that's something you can definitely see. You got a much more range of motion with the shock therapy setup versus ours, you know, on the stock one. When I would push it harder down the same trail, you know, I could feel a lot more travel, not necessarily in a good way, especially once I hit the next bump going in and drag my belly across it. You could feel it bottom out.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think the 3 settings, to be honest with you, I think is probably almost good for about anything. You know, there's not
Yeah.
much more you need to do unless you're jumping, maybe.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel so far. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna jump in the other rigs. We'll go to make those adjustments real quick on mine. Let you guys drive it a little bit harder on the 12 setting, and then you can see what it feels like.
There's a bigger difference now between 12 because of the speed you can
Yeah.
carry versus the speed I can carry in this.
All right, so we just got done riding. We're on setting 12 now. That's probably all we're gonna do for tonight, and then we're just gonna go out and get some more shots and just go riding. But Chuck, tell us what you think of now going to a 12.
It's a night and day difference. That's where you notice the biggest difference. The amount of speed you can carry now in a 12, and you don't lose any of the plush ride. So the plushness you got on a 3 still carry through to the 12. It's just you're able to carry so much more speed. It was just an amazing difference. Again, I don't think going to 24 is even needed. I'll never get there. I'll never get there. And the good news is that I think while I was driving, I started texting, placing my order with Shock Therapy.
All right, Kent, you're up.
You know, I noticed the big difference was coming around in the corners. That suspension with the Shock Therapy just seemed to hold those corners and stay right on the ground and really carry you around those corners. So Yeah, I'm with Chuck. I'm calling shock therapy, I think. So.
So my review, because this has been great for me to jump in your guys' stock ones, because you forget how they ride like instantly when you start driving yours after you got like the shock therapy set up. But what I did notice, and don't take Kawasaki, I think has one of the best suspensions out of the box, hands down. They're a great machine. They run awesome. And there was a comment on the comment board on Facebook that Dave and I were following that you can't really improve the suspension. I think at the end of the day, driving these stock ones now, I see it's almost in a different ball game. Like it really changes the whole car.
You're talking about springs can't do anything for you, dude.
Yeah, I know, seriously. So
The stability you get is truly amazing, because you're not getting, if you notice when you're driving mine, the body roll you would get in the turns, the new shock therapy corners flat. It corners really flat.
And if you notice too, going from like 3, I mean, you're not going up that many more clicks, but you can tell the difference in the clicks now. That's the biggest thing that I noticed.
Huge.
Every time I made a click change, you can tell like you can feel the difference. So the other thing is too that I was blown away by, and even Dave during the reviews of the KRX and Joe, was the KRX rode so well over the chop, right? It floated. Now it's like, yeah, it did ride great, but now that I have that set up, I was like, holy cow, I can ride that much better. So it is really crazy how it takes all of that literally out, no matter if you're at a 3 or a 9. And I bet it would probably feel almost the same as, as that when you get into the 20s. I did run it in the 20s at one time, and the biggest thing that you get if you're running hard in corners is that's what you would want. So if you're running a lot of corners and dips out in sand dunes and you're hitting transitions that are really steep like this, you're gonna want it set up probably in the 20s so you can hit those hard and hit those, and then the car G outs, yeah. So then the car sits flat, when you hit the corners and different things as well. But yeah, I was blown away by driving your guys' units. They ride great, but it really brought me right back to where it was riding before. So it's kind of crazy. So anything else, Ken?
No, great. It was just great to try those out. I mean, they are night and day difference.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to ask, because I guess everybody wants to know. Everybody works hard. I told them from the beginning, say what they feel. I don't care if it's negative, whatever, positive. But at the end of the day, Kent, is the money well spent?
Your money's well spent. Yeah, I think that's probably would be one of the best investments so far I can see. So
there you go. Okay, Chuck, how about you?
I agree. I think out of all the thousands of dollars I've put into accessories to make it look cool, I think that looking back on it, I would change the shocks and springs first thing. There's no doubt that makes the biggest change, and I just feel that it almost makes me a really good rider.
Like it might a lot easier to drive.
Exactly,
right?
It's so much easier to drive. I mean, because it becomes, the KRX was the first machine I ever owned that really drove effortlessly, and then you just take that and crank it up to 10 on shock therapy. I mean, it drives and just handles so effortless. It really is. It takes it to another level. If you ever ridden a KRX, you know that when you're driving them, you feel like you could do it with one hand. Well, now you could do it with your knee. It's that big of a difference.
So I think the big thing is for me is to get into rock crawling, which we'll do surely enough to see what it's like in the rocks. But honestly, at the end of the day, I think if I was to do it over again, I would do suspension first, and I think a cage is probably ideal as well. Is money well spent, and I would definitely do the suspension first though. Like now that I've had it, I wish I would have did it right out the gate. It's crazy. So all right, that's about all I have. Dave, how's your XRC handling with the new suspension?
Loving it.
Yeah, night and day difference.
About as good as it's going to get, I think, as far as the XRC goes.
Yeah, which
I still can't outrun these guys in this section at all. But
yeah, but your machine's like 10 times better driving that one. It's crazy. So
the whoops just swallow me up.
all right, guys. Well, should we go out and ride?
let's do it.
All right.
Hit it.